Welcome back to Free Media. I'm Robby Soave.
And I'm Amber Duke.
The Gerontocracy is alive and well, or almost alive. It seems almost every day we have yet more examples of our elderly politicians, of which we have many, undergoing a new injury, fall, or whatnot.
And here's the latest. 76-year-old Democratic Congressman John Larson froze in the middle of a speech on the House floor, standing motionless for nearly a full minute.
And the billionaire class have gotten together and said, don't worry, no one on the Republican side in the House and Senate, who control both the House and Senate, is going to speak up and challenge us. But we need to protect Americans' privacy and their social security. For 40% of all Americans.
Ooh, that's hard to watch. This comes right after Republican Senator Mitch McConnell, former leader of the Senate, Republican faction, he suffered a fall and was later seen in a wheelchair. And he has obviously frozen up on screen. I should say I don't know exactly what was going on with that Democratic figure. It almost seemed like his teleprompter cut off, but there's no teleprompter up there, I don't think, in the Senate chamber. I think he was having a medical issue. And this has just become more and more common with our aging leadership. Dianne Feinstein, obviously, passing away in office, clearly unable to fulfill her duties in the last months or even years of her Senate term. There is just no mechanism for pushing people who should retire towards retirement. Of course, the most famous example being Joe Biden, the sitting president, clearly incapable of doing the job for like the last year of his presidency and being forced from the ticket, though they were going to deny that until it became totally impossible to cover up. This is a bipartisan issue because both Republicans and Democrats have struggled with having aging leadership. Mitch McConnell clearly had to get out of the Senate leadership position and really should not still be serving in government, frankly.
Yeah, he's trying to hold on, I guess, till 2026 so
That's
that
a long ways
Andy
away.
Beshear doesn't get to. Yeah, it's rough. I mean, there's been so many recent examples of this. Nancy Pelosi fell recently, just about a month ago, and ended up in a wheelchair, apparently. It's just crazy to watch and really sad. And I think what it comes down to is just that both of these political parties are so obsessed with retaining power that there's no incentive for the people themselves to voluntarily take themselves out or for members of their party to encourage them to leave. And sadly, you would expect that the families would come in and say, hey, bud, it's time to go to the lake house and retire and like spend your final days with your family.
Yes.
But they don't do it either because in a lot of cases, these people have been in government for so long and they make a lot of money off of their access to power, whether it's through insider trading, major government contracts that they get to dole out. Their family members often get nepotism in the form of getting awarded high-level positions in the private sector.
The eunuchs don't want a new emperor.
That's
They're
right.
going to be entombed with the old emperor is their fear. That's exactly it. We actually on Rising Today, we interviewed a Democratic challenger to Nancy Pelosi. He's a former staff member for AOC. Young, good-looking, charismatic, actually left-leaning, but maybe he knew the audience or he knew me as I was trying to say more bipartisan things, but in a really inspiring way. And he'll probably get crushed because of the incentives on the Democratic side, the power that people like Nancy Pelosi have to keep them out. Now, 1 in a million times you have like an AOC type person who wins, and that could be him. There's got to be some appetite for change among the voters on the Democratic side. But you had them recently putting the leadership deciding to put Jerry Connolly in that very important advocacy position. This is a 76-year-old member of the Democratic Party who I think is undergoing cancer treatment or some treatment for very serious health conditions, saying this should be the energetic face of our party as we prepare to fight Republicans tooth and nail. it's just it's a real problem. It's a problem on both sides, but it's a real problem for the Democrats right now.
And I always find myself actually, we probably disagree on this. I'm kind of torn on the idea of term limits for a couple of reasons. I mean, I understand.
No, I'm torn too.
Yeah, because obviously there's a lot of benefits. You don't get people
Yeah.
at the age of 80 something still serving in Congress
Yeah.
or serving as the president, et cetera. But on the other side of it, you kind of end up empowering lobbyists and the associated consultants who get to like go find these sort of handpicked candidates that they get in for 2 or 6 years, and then it also prevents the voting populace from continuing to vote for people that they really like. I mean, we're currently dealing with this in Virginia, where governors are not allowed to serve consecutive terms, and so Governor Youngkin has been incredibly popular. Was able to ride this wave of parental rights into the governor's mansion in Virginia, but he can't run again, and
Right.
so it's all but guaranteed, because his lieutenant governor is not as popular, that it's going to go back into Democratic hands, and there's nothing really Virginians can really do about it.
On the other hand, Barack Obama probably would have been a 3-term president,
Yeah.
possibly,
Yeah.
if that wasn't in place. I tend to like them because there's just so much continuity in our government, and just having the opportunity, and there are so many benefits of incumbency, at least on the congressional level, with districts being so gerrymandered and all of that.
Yeah.
I would be probably more for a kind of term limit thing. But also we have weak parties as structural organizations. I mean, the head of the party is that, like, Trump is the head of the Republican Party. The Democratic side right now, it's unclear. It's, Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi behind the curtain, and they're the leaders of the party. So there's no one independent of them who can say your time is over. Like, if you compare to European countries that have parliamentary systems, once the leader becomes unpopular, the party throws them out, and they all follow this arc of like popular, now unpopular, now out. They actually replace their leaders with younger, fresher faces. Look at Kemi Badenoch for the Conservative Party in England. Canada is about to go through some leadership changes because they've lost popularity. We don't have an equivalent of that. We really don't.
No, we don't. And one thing that concerns me is there's an issue with institutional knowledge that cuts both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Continuity can lead to this consensus that leads to really bad policy making, and also leads to cozy relationships with outside contractors like lobbyists and consultants and the like, which creates this incentive for people in office to do whatever it is their lobbyists want them to do, with the promise of when they get out, they'll make millions of dollars working in the private sector. On the other side of that, though, is if you have someone who is going in for just a 2-year term, doesn't know anything about Congress, doesn't really know how it works, they could be captured really quickly by lobbyists who seemingly have a lot of expertise and know what's going on and can sort of guide this young newbie through the process. So that's where I kind of get held up and get a little nervous. And then I think, on the Biden question, to me, that was less of an age question than it was just a health question.
Well,
because,
sure.
I mean, you have Trump, who's just a few years younger than Joe Biden and is obviously a pretty vigorous guy for his age, obviously.
Yes.
But to compare those two, it's like, okay, well, is it the age or is it the condition?
Right, and people can be in their 80s and still be in pretty good shape, and people can be losing it, 20 years before that. So you're right, it's different for every person. I'm also specifically worried, though, about the gerontocracy at this point in time, because with AI around the corner, the importance of tech innovation right now, the need for Congress to regulate where appropriately. There'll be some regulations, that's fine, but in a way that allows American companies in these important industries to flourish relative to our rivals in China. It could be so important for our national security for the next century. And the idea that the people doing that are the oldest people ever is just really worrying to me. People who don't understand these technologies on fundamental level. Now, they have younger staff members whose job is to brief the person, but if you've ever tried to explain to an elderly family member how some of these things work and just like ready to quit in frustration, and that's gonna be our governance when it comes to AI and other things, that has me really worried.
Me too, and I'm sure we've all seen the clips of these congressional hearings where big tech executives come in and you have some member of Congress asking Mark Zuckerberg why his Gmail's not working.
Yes.
Why am I not getting emails, Mr. Zuckerberg? It's just like total facepalm
The tech
moment.
executives never look so sympathetic as they do in those hearings. All right, tune in tomorrow for more free media. We'll be back then.